So, okay, everybody, welcome to this short little webinar on selling maintenance and also pre-booking appointments. This is not a new topic to most of you, but my experience is that not everybody is really good at, I'm just going to be sharing this here. Now, you should be able to see on your screen says selling maintenance. If somebody could just let me know if that's the case. Because I do want to go through each slide as you see it printed off for you. And again, for those of you that don't have the workbook, I didn't send it out to everybody that I sent out invites to today. So anyway, so we're going to take a look at selling maintenance and also pre-booking appointments. My experience is that most independent repair shops, we tend to have lots and lots of repair coming our way. A lot of people, I think, perceive a dealership as a place that you go to for maintenance, and a repair shop is where you go to for repairing your vehicle. And a lot of people, even though this is 2018, still think that you do need to take your vehicle to the dealership for maintenance. And it's our responsibility to educate customers and let them know that they can bring the vehicle to us. I was doing some research online the other day, and it's interesting still to see how many people really do think that you do need to bring your vehicle to a dealership or it's going to be voided. One thing I was impressed to see is how many quick lube places now say factory authorized oil changes or dealer authorized oil changes, and it's simply letting people know that you can take care of their vehicles. And I saw some stuff online recently about people who said that you can't do the maintenance yourself. Your warranty is void, and the idea, well, of course, the plan is that you need to make note of it and make sure that the work that needs to be done is done to keep the warranty intact. So we're going to take a look at selling maintenance. And of course, we're also going to take at mastering pre-booking. And I want to use the word mastering because there's people that really have mastered this whole process. One of the things I'll be sending out to you, some of you already have it, but is an interview that I did with a fellow by the name of Jim Voigt, who has been the king of pre-booking appointments for years and years and years. His generation, his shop, I should say, is third generation. And Jim used to tell me that he hated Wednesdays. This is Wednesday. He hated Februaries because February was always slow. And of course, depends on where you are in the country. In Canada, especially in the colder areas, and some places in the US where there's winter tires, November tends to be the absolute busiest month of the entire year. And it's get it in, get it out, get it in, get it out, get it in, get it out. And most shops see November as the highest sales month of the entire year. However, I've tracked it, and most shops, it's usually the second or third lowest gross profit of the entire year. So we can be busy, but not necessarily busy with stuff that actually makes money. Recently, I was talking to a sales rep who sells training, and he said that a lot of people say, well, why should I go to that Kelly Bennett class? Like, he can't teach me how to be any busier than I already am, and I'm not making money. And I see a lot of shops that are making extremely good money. I know a shop who's losing huge amounts of money, and yet they're working really, really hard at it. So it really is about filling up your day with as much work that makes money as you possibly can. And so we're going to take a look at pre-booking, because that, more than anything else that you do, can allow you to do a lot more of the maintenance work, the money-making work. And unfortunately, again, a lot of people come to us when they already have a problem in the vehicle. You can go through your schedule. I recommend that you do this and just take a look at each appointment, let's say for the last week or the last month. Probably better to take a look at the last month and take a look at the work that came in. And the question is it maintenance work or is it repair work? And there's a big difference between the two of those. Repairs versus selling maintenance. Just a couple of quotes for you there. Repairs are bought. That means simply that a customer comes in and they want something because they need it. They come in, their brakes are grinding, and they come in and say, I need to have my brakes done. They weren't just squealing, they were actually grinding. Repairs are bought. A person comes to the shop and they want something because there's already something wrong with the vehicle. Whereas maintenance is actually sold. And there's a difference between buying and selling. If I come to your shop and my brakes are pretty much metal to metal, and you actually heard me drive on the lot because they were grinding so badly, you don't need to sell me brakes. I'm buying brakes because I'm an idiot and I waited too long and I skipped the process. And I saw some information on the Automotive Service Association and AAA in the US, or AMA in Canada, or CAA, whatever place that you're in, and what people typically overlook when it comes to maintenance. And I found it quite fascinating. And personally, I'm going to recommend that you make a copy of that and put it up on your shop. Maybe you've got a TV set or a screen that rotates around, educate your customer, silent marketing it's called, and letting people know that we need to be educating ourselves as customers about maintenance. So repairs are bought and maintenance is sold. If I come to your shop and my brakes are metal to metal, you can't tell me that you sold me brakes. You can't say I sold Kelly Bennett brakes. You didn't really sell me brakes. I bought brakes. And unless I'm a total idiot, and I've heard some crazy stories over my 30-year career about people heading down the street with brakes in poor condition or something because they think they can get it cheaper someplace else. But that's rare. Most people, if they come to you and their brakes are metal to metal, they're buying brakes. But most people come in when they're already having a problem. The car's making a noise, or something's going wrong. It's pulling to the right, maybe pulling to the left. Most people come in because there's already something wrong with the vehicle. It's doing something that it shouldn't, or it's not doing something that it should, and they come to us. And the question is to take a look at your schedule to find out what percentage of the work that you do is repairs and what percentage is maintenance. Now, for the most part, maintenance is more profitable than repairs. Now, I'm not saying that brakes are not profitable. If it's grinding brakes and we're going to replace the entire brake system and the rotors and calipers and everything, that certainly can be a gravy job. But a lot of the stuff that we're doing is repair, and it's less profitable. One thing I want to encourage you to calculate is what we would call gross profit per hour. And gross profit per hour is a really neat calculation. The question is, how much gross profit dollars are we earning in an hour? For example, a good example of that would be tires. Tires sell at a lower gross profit than parts do. That's just the way it is. We want to get 50 to 55% gross profit on parts. You're certainly not going to get 50 to 55% gross profit on tires. If you did, you wouldn't sell many because you'd be pricing yourself out of the market. So they are a lower gross profit item. But I like to calculate gross profit per hour because the gross profit per hour on tire sales is actually pretty decent. The question is, in a day, there's only so much work that can be done, usually 8 hours available per technician per day, and we can fill up their day with grunt work, we can fill up their day with gravy work. And the idea is to sell more maintenance so we can increase the efficiency. It really does come down to the time in the day. There's two kinds of time. There's making money time and there's losing money time. And there's really good making money time. If I've got a technician and I sell a huge amount of maintenance for that technician, we're doing some fluid flushes, we're doing all sorts of different kinds of work, then the technician is going to be extremely efficient. But if I fill up the day with grunt work and it's just mainly oil changes and tire rotations or whatever, then even though I've got a very efficient technician, the day may not be very good in sales per tech or gross profit per hour or whatever calculation you're tracking because we did the wrong kind of work. The idea is to fill up the day with maintenance. And then one of the reasons I decided to add booking the next appointment here is because in my career, I've seen people who've gotten really, really good at pre-booking appointments. And the bottom line is they are selling a lot more maintenance because maintenance is sold in advance. So again, repairs are bought, maintenance is sold. If a customer comes into the shop and they're there for an oil change or state inspection or whatever they're there for, and you walk out to the car and you do a walk around inspection, which I've taught for years, and I can tell you from my experience is one of the least implemented things I've ever seen is to go out to the vehicle and do the walk around inspection when the customer arrives. But if you get into the habit, and I'm going to be sending out an email after this that has a walk around inspection form. Now, albeit it's a little bit too detailed, The fellow who worked on it is the most OCD person that I know, but I want to encourage you to create your own simple walk-around inspection. Having said that, I want to encourage you, when you have a new customer, somebody who's never been to your shop before, and they make it an appointment as a first-time customer, that is not somebody you want to see at 8 o'clock in the morning when everybody else is showing up at your shop. In reality, you really want to do an interview with that person. You want to take more time with the person. You certainly don't want their first experience coming to the shop. You're opening the door, people are standing at the counter, and you know how that goes. You don't want to take too much time because there's a little bit of a lineup. I call it 8 and wait. You've got a line up at the door, and then that customer's there. So we recommend that if it's a new customer, especially, that you set up a time that's really an appointment time to meet with the customer. And there's a case where you definitely want to do a walk around inspection, walk out to the vehicle. Now, part of that is a bit of security. So the customer doesn't say, well, you scratched that car, you dented that, or whatever it might be. We've all been accused of doing certain things. Keith, you'll remember a fellow in Raleigh that would walk around the car with a camera. And the reason he would do that is because there was times they were accused of damaging a car. And as far as I know, there's only a couple times that he ever had to go back and look at the video. And in one case, this lady said, you scratched my car. And they looked at the video and she was right. It wasn't there when they got there. Sadly, I'm just thinking about one of our customers who yesterday, a technician, had to go home because he backed an RV into another RV and did about $30,000 worth of the damage. Well, that's pretty obvious that it was done by the shop. But there's a bit of protection there as well, so that if there was a scratch or a dent, that you can point it out to the customer that it was there when you first arrived. So a purpose of the walk-around inspection is just like when you're walking around a rental car when you get it. I had a rental car one time, and when I returned it, there was a chip in the windshield. I don't think it got hit by a chip, a rock. Maybe when I park someplace, I don't think so. But now when I rent a car, I make sure I do my own walk-around inspection and point out things to them. Anyway, the idea is to walk out to the vehicle and find additional work that needs to be done. You walk out to the vehicle. Some of the standard things that would be on there would be to read the oil change sticker to see, are they due for an oil change? Sometimes we don't notice that. The car gets into the bay for something else, and then we realize, oh, they need an oil change, and then I've got to call Lisa to see if Lisa wants to have that oil change done today. Or maybe I know her and I'll just go ahead and do the oil change. And I don't believe that we should do work for people and spend their money without their authorization. So to walk out to the vehicle, you are going to sell more maintenance. One of the reasons is to take a look at the mileage. And you would be able to point out to the customer that they're due for whatever service there is. Now, I think too often we think in terms of major services. It's easier to say in the US 30s, 60s, and 90s. In Canada, of course, it'd be a 96,000 service or 96,000 case service, which is a major service. And it's a very profitable one as well. And we want to point that out to the customer that they're close to 96,000. Now, having said that, one of the keys in selling more maintenance, and I've seen shops do a really, really good job of this, is they anticipate what the mileage should be on their regular customers. So Lisa's coming into my shop. I know what her mileage was last time. I know approximately what it should be this time. And I'm going to encourage you the night before to prepare for the next day. Maybe it's in the afternoon between 2 and 4 o'clock. You've got maybe that lull in the afternoon. Take a look at who's coming in the next day. Take a look at the mileage and go to Mitchell On Demand or All Data or whatever service you have or what system you have, and take a look at what the next recommended service should be for that customer and go ahead and print it off. I don't like printing off a lot of stuff, but I believe in show and tell, and we need to be able to show the customer what the manufacturer of that automobile recommends. I know one particular shop, the fellow who's running it, not so organized, but his wife certainly is, and that's what she does. She looks at what's coming in the next day. She looks at the mileage, prints off from Mitchell what the next service would be. And again, it's not just 30s, 60s, and 90s, but it doesn't matter what kind of vehicle the customer has. Every 3,000 miles or 5,000 kilometers, kilometers, services repeat themselves over the life of that vehicle. So the idea is to print that off. You walk out to the car, you do the walk around inspection. Again, this is for a customer who's been in enough times to know where they're at with mileage. And so we see that you're at whatever mileage, we anticipated that, and the manufacturer of your automobile recommends these services. What we're talking about here is the difference between buying and selling. Years ago, I wrote a workshop called Beyond Order Taking, because my experience in a lot of shops is it's order taking. The customer gets what the customer wants, which is not necessarily what the customer needs. How often does a customer come into your shop, they want something they don't need, or they need something they don't want? And it's your job as a service advisor to educate the customer. We're going to take a look at that shortly here. It's called the E and A. Back to maintenance. Maintenance is usually the most profitable thing that you can sell, and it's far more about selling those services than it is about the customer buying them. How often does a customer come into your shop and say, I'm here for my 60,000 mile service, I'm here for my 96,000 kilometer service, I'm here for my timing belt? That's a bit more likely because they understand that usually, but there's no question about it. Dealerships sell a lot more maintenance than they do repair. They've made selling maintenance so much easier. They've got the package A, the package B, the package C, and basically the services repeat themselves over the life of the vehicle. So I want to encourage you to focus on what kind of work you're seeing, and maybe do a study. Like I said, look through your schedule. I've done that in shops where I looked at, handheld schedule, written schedule is a little easier with a highlighter, but you can do that online as well. But the idea is to look at your schedule and say, okay, 50% of our work is maintenance, or 60% of our work is maintenance, or maybe 60% of your work is actually repair. And that's a good indication that we're allowing the customer to be in control. The customer gets what the customer wants, which is not necessarily what they need. So the idea that I wrote the session was, let's take it beyond order taking. Let's make it about maintenance. And you take a look at the dentist industry, and they've done an incredible job in selling us maintenance. So as I mentioned, repairs are bought for the most part, maintenance is sold. When people come in with grinding brakes or mufflers hanging down, or they got towed in, those are repairs, and they're usually there because of that. I'm here because I have the problem. They make the appointment, my car's making this noise, or it's not stopping correctly, or whatever, my AC is not working, so something's already wrong, and that's why they're there. And that's why a lot of shops are selling a lot more repair, because it's really being bought, not necessarily being sold, and they're just really good order takers rather than being salespeople. And again, customers come in and they want something they don't need, or they need something they don't want. It's our responsibility to educate customers about the benefits of maintenance. People buy because of something it's going to do for them. It's the why behind that. And too often we don't explain the why, we just explain what needs to be done. And I find that's true with technicians as well. I believe if you as a service advisor are going to sell that to the customer, the technician needs to sell that to you. And too often technicians will come up to you and say, this is what needs to be done, without telling them why it needs to be done. And shortly, I'm going to show you here the 5 W's of selling. Now, it doesn't just relate to maintenance, it relates to upsell work, etc. It's your responsibility to educate the customer to create a desire. And I'm going to show you a principle shortly that I want to encourage you every single day. If you could focus on the 5 W's and the AIDA principle, you are going to sell a lot more maintenance. There are people who are really good at selling, and some people who are just really good at being order takers. And I've seen some people who sell just brilliantly, and then there's other people who just, well, the customer asked for that, so that's what the customer gets, and they're not taking the time to sell the maintenance. Maintain the vehicle warranty is a huge issue for most people. They want to maintain the warranty, and they're afraid that the warranty will be voided if they take it someplace else other than the dealership. The dealerships are really good at promoting themselves as being the experts. Today I was watching something on YouTube about maintenance, actually, and it's a commercial. So for those of you that are in Canada, there is a fellow Homes on Homes, and he fixes homes. He goes out and has a house that's got serious issues, and they do the diagnosis, and they maintain it, or they fix that house. Usually it's structural damage. and he's in a truck. I won't mention the name of the make of the vehicle, but he talks about the truck, and he said some things you just need to leave to the experts. And what he says is you want to bring your vehicle to the dealership. A lot of dealerships say we are the right place, the right parts, the right tools, the right technician, the right training. Too often they're saying, parts unknown is a very popular commercial where you don't want parts unknown in that vehicle. And yet I have worked with every parts every parts supplier out there, and they too sell to dealerships. A lot of people think that every single part from a dealership's an OEM part. That's not true. If the dealership doesn't have the part in stock and they can get it from Napa or CarQuest or Worldpac or whoever else, they'll get it from them. So much for the parts unknown. But a lot of times they will promote themselves to be the experts. I remember years ago seeing a billboard on the side of the road driving from Calgary, Alberta to Edmonton, and it shows pretty much a grease monkey on the side, the side of a car, and he's standing there with a hammer in his hand, and it says, don't let strangers under your hood. And there's a lot of marketing from dealerships that basically are saying we don't know what we're doing. So it's our responsibility to counteract that and not put them down. I don't want to put them down to make us look good. That's what they do. But it's our responsibility to let people know about the vehicle warranty because it's so incredibly important to them. And I believe that we need to educate our customers about vehicle warranty, that we can maintain that vehicle and their warranty will be intact. And so it's your responsibility to educate customers. I've seen people with slogans that say maintain your vehicle warranty or factory authorized service or whatever it might be. And again, a big oil change company in Canada, warranty approved oil changes. They're all warranty approved, but again, we need to educate our customers. Our customers are not stupid. When I say ignorant, I don't mean stupid. Ignorance is they simply don't know. And it's our responsibility to educate customers that we can work on their vehicle and maintain the vehicle warranty. The dealerships aren't telling them that, so it's us that needs to tell them that. And I just see something flashing here. I don't know if somebody's trying to chat with me. Okay. Thanks, Keith. So we need to maintain the vehicle warranty, increase the longevity of their vehicles. A lot of people want their vehicle to last longer. Years ago, people would not necessarily think that they could keep their vehicle for 10 years to 12 years. It's certainly something that's absolutely doable, and it'll increase the longevity of their vehicles. I remember my son, he was a service advisor. Not that I can't remember my son, but he was a service advisor at a car repair shop in Canada. And we did this thing, we'd drive down the street and he'd look over at some car that was really not running properly, and you could tell that they weren't looking after it. And he'd say, that's not a maintenance customer. I saw one of those the other day. I thought, well, it's definitely not a maintenance customer. I could hear it coming down the driveway or the parking lot where I live. And there's a lot of people that are not interested in maintaining the vehicle. But a lot of people want to increase the longevity of the vehicle, which is one of the reasons I believe that you should interview people when they come to your shop, first-time customers, and ask them questions like, how much do you drive? Do you use the vehicle to drive to and from work? How long do you plan on keeping this vehicle, etc.? Next is increase the resale value of the vehicle. It's important for people to realize what the resale value is. I suggest that you have the Kelly Blue Book hotkeyed or bookmarked on your desktop so that you can show a customer what the vehicle is worth. You can say if a vehicle's in clean, great condition, it sells for this, and if it's not, it sells for a lot less. So again, we want to explain to people that if they maintain the vehicle or follow the maintenance and maintain the vehicle correctly, the warranty is going to be intact. The vehicle will last longer. It'll increase the resale value of the vehicle. When they go to sell it, it'll sell for more. It certainly reduces the risk or the hassle of a breakdown. A well-maintained vehicle is going to break down a whole lot less than one that is not looked after. Certainly provides increased safety. I'm stunned to see some people and what they're driving around with their tires in really bad shape or two different tires or whatever it might be. We want to make sure that our customers are safe, and so maintaining the vehicle is going to provide increased safety. It'll certainly allow them to have more peace of mind driving around in a vehicle that runs really good. I'm sure we've all experienced where maybe somebody lends us their car or something and they say, well, you need to do this, and they need to give you all these instructions, and you're driving the vehicle and you certainly don't feel safe driving the vehicle. There's all these noises going on, but there's a lot more peace of mind when the vehicle is in top-notch running condition. Gas consumption, of course, is often reduced. A customer who doesn't maintain the vehicle correctly is certainly going to be spending more money on gas. Gas is extremely expensive, and it's our responsibility to educate the customer that they can save a lot of money on gas by better preparing the vehicle. And in our marketing classes, one of the things I will do is I will ask people to create a package. And the more packages that we create, the better the shop will run from a financial perspective. The example that I give is the fast food industry. When you go in, they don't want to just sell you a burger or fries or a soda or coffee. They want to sell you the full meal deal. And it's a package that they put together, which increases their average invoice, or their average ticket, as we would call it. And of course, when they supersize, that allows them to increase the gross profit on those items. We need to do the same thing and create packages, and we can take some lower gross profit items like an oil change and put them into packages with more maintenance items, and we can increase the average invoice, and if we do it correctly, increase the gross profit as well. And so in these classes, I'll ask people, you've got 15 minutes. What I'd like you to do as a group is to create a package, and I would like you to name that package, and I would like you to take lower gross profit items, maybe start with an oil change and add some higher gross profit items to it. I would like you to list the parts that are going to be included in your package, how much labor is going to be included, how long will it take, and then I'd like you to calculate your labor rate, what you pay your technician, so you can calculate the gross profit on the labor, calculate the gross profit on the parts. And I've done this literally across Canada and the US with thousands of groups, and I tell you, not once has a group not been able to complete that exercise in 15 minutes. And one of my favorites was the gas. Several people, of course, did gas reduction or saving money on fuel. Fuel miser package, one group called it. And it basically said, what can we do to your vehicle to help you save money on fuel? I remember years and years ago, there was a commercial, and it started off showing Niagara Falls and all this water coming over the falls. And you think, oh, it's a commercial for Niagara Falls, and it's not. There's no words in the commercial. It's just captions on the screen. And it says, this is how much fuel is wasted every day in North America because of low tire pressure. Just one thing. And that's why in California, many years back, the government made it a law that as a repair shop, you are required every single time a vehicle is in without fail, you need to note, you need to take the tire pressure, check the tire pressure, and adjust it accordingly. Now, whether you charge for that or not wasn't their concern. What their concern was that you as a shop, as a professional, you're required to check the tire pressure every single time the vehicle's in. I think that's something we should automatically do for our customers anyway. And another one of my favorites was a package that a group put together called in Vancouver. They called it I Can See Clearly Now. And what they wanted was to have a package that people could have much better visual, to see a lot better. And so they replaced the lights on the vehicle. I bought my vehicle a couple years ago. It's a Jaguar station wagon, which is, I've never seen another Jaguar station wagon before. But the first thing I did, literally, I bought the vehicle. I went to Canadian Tire, which is where I went, and I asked them to replace the lights. And the guy looked at me like I could do that myself. Well, I had just had shoulder replacement surgery and I had the sling in my hand. And he's basically looking at me like I'm, slinging my arm in a sling, I should say. And when I read that you have to move the battery to get to that, I'm thinking, I'm not doing that. Anyway, the point is they created this package. I Can See Clearly Now, and they put headlight adjustments in that package and the better bulbs and other things that they could do to help the vehicle be safer and see better. One example of that, I was in Kelowna, British Columbia, and a fellow said, a customer came in, said, I just moved here. It's in the mountains. There's a lot of fog, and I want better lights. And he looked at him and thought, yeah, but you can just go down to the parts stores in town and buy those and put them in yourself. But the guy didn't care about that, didn't want to do that. He simply wanted to be able to see better. And he looks at him and gives him the estimate and thought the guy was just going to go, you got to be kidding. And he said, great, when can you do it? See, we're experts. We make things look simple. But to a consumer who doesn't even want to open the hood on their vehicle, most people don't even open their hood anymore. They want to pay an expert to do that. And here's the guy thinking, are you crazy? You want to spend this much money? And he's thinking, when I'm driving home, I'm going to feel a whole lot safer. And I tell you, when I was driving through the mountains with my much better bulbs, I could see a whole lot better, and it was extremely important to me. So it comes back to the safety. Anyway, I want to encourage you to create packages which is going to allow you to take lower gross profit items, put them in with maintenance items that are higher gross profit items, which is going to increase your average invoice. It's going to increase your overall gross profit. And it's also going to make your technicians a whole lot happier because they're going to be doing more gravy work and less grunt work. And the last one is pride of ownership, where a person's vehicle is performing really well and they've got great performance. And a good example of that is the engine cleaning, injection cleaning systems. I remember years ago walking into a repair shop and I said, it was many years ago, but I said, do you have motorvac? And he said, motorvac? Nobody asked that. I said, yeah, I'm aware of the equipment. I want to get it done. And I know there's some technicians out there that say it's smoke and mirrors and it doesn't really work. I say it does. And I had it done on my van and the peppiness was incredible. I had it done on my Toyota, which had, I don't know, probably 230,000 miles on it at the time. And I ended up giving that vehicle to my mother's husband. He's not really my stepdad, my mother's husband. And he was driving it and he called me. He said, what'd you do to the Toyota? It's so much more peppy. The problem is when you lose performance, you lose it very slowly. But when you do a service like that, you get it back very quickly and you notice the difference right away. And so back to the pride of ownership, people want their vehicles performing correctly and they want it looking good and not sounding like people are embarrassed sitting beside them at a traffic light. Next is communication skills, and it relates to selling versus order taking, improving your communication skills. And if you do so, you will sell more, you'll be better at selling. And I believe that your job every single day is E&A, 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 E&A. As a service advisor, it's your responsibility every single day to educate and advise. Every day, your job on that counter is to be an advisor. And then we advise our customers. People are coming to us because they perceive us as the experts with their automobile. You don't need to be an expert at car repair to be on the counter. Sometimes having too much information on the counter can get dangerous. You start talking to people too complicated. They feel stupid. They don't know what you're talking about. I've experienced that buying computers, and they're going on and on and on and on and on. I'm looking at them thinking, oh my God, I don't know what you're talking about. You're making me feel stupid. People buy things because of the benefit, the things that we just looked at. My car will last longer. It will save money on fuel. It'll be safer. That they understand. The process of all the stuff behind the scenes, most people don't care about. All they want is the benefits to be realized. So your job every single day is to educate and advise. So when we go back to taking a look at the benefits of maintenance, it's your job to educate the customer. The reason you'd want the 60,000 mile or 96,000 kilometer service done is to maintain the warranty. Your car will last longer. It'll sell more when you go to sell it. It'll reduce the risk of a breakdown. You certainly don't want it breaking down. This winter in Canada, it was just a brutal winter. I know in Chicago, some other areas, it was brutal. I don't know what the statistics are of how many people freeze to death when their car breaks down, but it's dangerous. They tell us to put candles in there and the blankets and all that kind of stuff. Well, it's also very important to make sure that the vehicle's running properly and they're not heading off and 40 degree below zero. I had an experience this past year, the night before New Year's Eve. It was 26 below, 40 below with the wind chill factor, and I got a flat tire. And I was certainly not going to, at 1:15 in the morning on the side of a busy road, change my spare. I mean, I certainly know how to, but at 40 degrees below zero was not going to happen. Now, you can't prepare for everything that's going to happen. You don't know you're going to have a flat tire per se, but the better the car is maintained, the less likely it's going to break down. So again, your job every single day is to educate customers and advise them of what they should do. So we educate them about the benefits, and we advise them that we think they should do the 60,000 mile service, that they should do the 96,000 kilometer service, or whatever it was. I was at my dentist office a couple of months ago, and they were talking to me about something, and they said it's pretty expensive And I said, I'm going to encourage you not to say that it's expensive. You'd say that it's a really good investment. It's really good value. And I was at another business the other day. I'm trying to remember which one it was. And they told me it was expensive. And I said, you don't tell customers that it's expensive. I had a guy, by the way, one time he introduced me. I won't say what parts company it was, but he introduced me at the beginning of a class and said, thanks for coming. I know it's really expensive, but I hope you get something out of it. And I thought I would prefer that you didn't say anything. We don't want to use the word expensive. Something that is cheap sometimes is expensive. Like you go to the dollar store and you buy something and it lasts for one day. That's a lot more expensive than something that you paid more for that lasted for 5 years. So there's a difference between cheap and expensive. Is $600 a lot to maintain a vehicle? Is $800 a lot to maintain the vehicle? Well, when we take a look at all the benefits, having the car last longer, save money on fuel, be safer, etc., then it's not about expensive. By the way, I'm going to encourage you never to give a person a price for anything until after you've told them what they're getting and why they want to get it. And a good example of that would be a 96,000 K service or a 60,000 mile service. So your job every single day, educate the advisor, advise them on what they should do. Educate the customer about the service that you're suggesting and advise them that you can do that for them. And again, if they ask how much that's going to be, I'm going to encourage you not to give a price until you've told them what they're getting and why they want to get it. I've already mentioned this earlier, but how often does a customer come into your shop, they want something they don't need, or they need something that they don't want? They want something because they thought they did. They want something because their brother-in-law told them. I remember when I was writing service way back in 78, 79, and 80, people would come in and say, my brother-in-law works on cars. And I'd say, so he doesn't actually fix them then? Oh, that's good. That's really good. There's a difference between knowing what you think is wrong with the vehicle and what is done. And sometimes people come in and they want something they don't need. They want a tune-up. They want a battery. They want an alternator. And yet maybe that's not what they need. We've seen people come in, their check engine light is on, they've done a bunch of things, or the alternator light's on, they've replaced the alternator, the battery, and the starter, and they did all the stuff that they wanted, but they didn't need them. The most expensive repair is something that was doing something that they didn't need at all, just something that they actually wanted. And this happens a lot of times to us. Now, on this chart, you're going to see here, and I found this online, it's from AMA, and I thought it was quite fascinating. These are maintenance items that are most often missed by motorists. 88% of maintenance items is the brake fluid. It's one of the number one things that people just simply don't pay attention to. It's our responsibility as shop owners. By the way, I made this bigger and I turned it sideways. I could have had it face up, but I turned it sideways just so it would make it look good, but I did send you the handout. 88%. So it's our responsibility to point that out to the vehicle. I can tell, I can't resist this. I bought a vehicle from a guy who owned a repair shop. I'm not making this stuff up. And he forgot to tell my friend that was driving it, who picked it up, that the brake fluid was leaking. And I know this sounds ridiculous, but it just occurred to me that I should tell this. I am driving to a meeting with Lordco, and there's people that can verify this story, Greg and Mike Kelly. Some of you know Mike. And I am driving to this meeting, and literally in front of me is a Lordco truck. My car is not stopping. I'm glad it wasn't at a light. I'm hitting the brakes. Nothing's working. I pull up the emergency brake, and it didn't stop. And I, not hard, but I hit the back of a Lordco truck. And the guy gets out, and I said, I can't believe this. I'm driving, and the brakes aren't working. And I told him I was on my way to a Lordco meeting, which is just too funny. But anyway, brake fluid is the number one thing that people overlook. Battery is number 2. Transmission fluid, 81%. Tires, it's amazing. We as consumers don't pay attention to our tires. Customer pulls up, you look at the tires and think, what are you thinking driving with tires that are that bald? I was in a Starbucks the other day, and I look out, a friend of mine says, look how bald those tires are on that car. And I looked, and sure enough, all 4 tires were so completely bald. And I thought, they obviously don't know. They're not paying attention. Life is busy. They got 6 kids and 8 sporting events a week, and they're going. as consumers, we spend very little time thinking about our vehicles. It's our responsibility, because these numbers are so high, to educate a customer that we're going to take care of this for them. So just because a customer doesn't notice the tires, they notice other things going on in their lives, not necessarily their car. Engine coolant, 77%, accessory belt, 74%, timing belt, 69%. Considering what happens if it's an interference engine and it breaks and how expensive that is, I had a customer in Ontario where the shop told them, sir, you should really have your timing belt replaced. You have an interference engine, it's called. And if it breaks, you're really going to have some problems. And he said, yeah, okay, I'll do that the next time I'm in. And he heads off. I don't make my stories up. This is true. This was in Ontario. The guy crosses the border, goes onto the other side of Niagara Falls, and his car breaks down. He doesn't have the money to get it fixed there. He's got to get it towed back to Canada, which was a total hassle because he had to find a tow truck driver who actually had a passport because he wasn't allowed to cross the border. But long story short, he gets it towed back to the shop and said, I wish I would have listened to you. They educated, they advised, but ultimately the customer makes the decision. It's their money, but it's our responsibility to point it out. The engine air filter, 58%. Windshield wipers, a lot of people don't pay attention to that, 56%. Oil change intervals. One thing I want to encourage you to do is to go through your oil change stickers and ask your technicians for at least the next month. You don't need to do it forever and a day. But what you want to do is ask your technicians that every single time you take an oil change sticker off of a vehicle and replace it, we want you to keep that sticker. Don't throw it away. And what we'd like you to do is to write on that sticker what the mileage was today. So instead of taking the sticker off anyway, and instead of throwing it in the garbage, they look at the mileage is right now, they write it on there and keep the stickers. At the end of the month, what you want to do is go through the stickers, find out how many were from your shop. I had a fellow in a class, actually. You know, I'm going to make a note to send you the picture so you know it's a true story. And he actually took a board and put the oil change stickers on it. And he put on one side was the ones from his shop, and the others were from not from his shop. And the idea is to find out how loyal your customers are with their oil changes. And in addition to that, you want to know what percentage of your customers are going over on their oil changes. So you can educate your customer. We've done a study, and this many people go over in the oil changes. We want to make sure we take care of that for you. Another thing that I'm going to send to you, some of you already have it, but it's an article that I wrote about oil change intervals, and that a lot of people, of course, pay attention only to the mileage and not to the engine hours. And I was thinking about that. Heavy-duty trucks are tracked in hours. Planes are tracked in hours. There's no such thing as mileage on a plane. It's tracked in engine hours. Boats are tracked in engine hours. Cars are usually tracked in miles or kilometers, although most vehicles, as you know, you can go in and take a look at how many engine hours are on it. But I did some research and I found out that when a customer, or a commuter, I should say, is idling, 1 hour of idle time is equal to 40 kilometers of driving or 25 miles of driving, same thing. Now, we're not talking about commute time. And you can go online, by the way. It's all the information's there. Just Google it. And I did, and found out that Vancouver in Canada is the highest of the entire country. No big surprise. In the US, it's Los Angeles. Los Angeles, I believe it's like 82 hours a year of just engine idling. That is not commute time. We're not talking about commute time. You go to work and it takes you a half hour to get there. That's not idle time. Idle is, I believe the definition is less than whatever, 5 kilometers an hour. In other words, the engine's running, but the tires, or the wheels, I should say, are not moving. And so I wrote an article called The Commuter's Oil Change. And the bottom line is somebody who commutes a lot needs more than an oil change every 3,000 miles or 5,000 kilometers. So I'll send that off to you. So here's where we educate and advise the customer. We ask them, especially on that new interview, do you commute to work? How long is your commute? You're in Toronto. Did you know that the average person in Toronto spends, I think it's 74 hours a year of idle time, and that equals almost 1 additional oil change per year. An oil change, an LOF, in our opinion, is a labor opportunity of the future. And if we have our customers loyal with the oil changes, and they're coming to us every single time for the oil changes, we're going to sell the additional work that goes along with that. And that's another reason for checking the stickers. If a lot of our customers are going someplace else, We need to get them to stop doing that. I had a fellow in Raleigh, North Carolina. He's really OCD and anal retentive, and he actually had his 5 stores collect all the oil change stickers, and each one was a little bit different. Not every one of his 5 stores had the exact same amount of people going elsewhere, but he created a spreadsheet and he looked at it and said, look at this. The number one competitor to oil changes, I would have thought, is Quick Lubes, but it's not. It was other independent repair shops. So at the end of the month, if you have 100 oil change stickers that you've removed, now again, you want to see how many people of the 100 got the oil change done over or under and what the average was. But you want to find out, of the 100 stickers, how many were your shops? Were there 60 of them? And the fellow that I'm going to send the picture to you of the fellow who had his sign, and I hesitate here because sadly, a few years ago, I heard that he had committed suicide. It had nothing to do with the oil change stickers, so I just get a little emotional when I think about the picture. But he brought the board to the session. I took a picture of him holding up the board, and on one side was the oil change stickers from his shop, and the other, and unfortunately, I believe it was something like 50-some% of his customers were going other places for the oil changes. And from a marketing perspective, we won't get into it here, but from a marketing perspective, there's things that you can do to get people to be more loyal with the oil changes. And we believe something like every 5th oil change is free, something like that. I don't believe in giving away a free oil change, but I do believe in giving away an oil change because they've earned it. We don't give away things hoping they'll come back to buy more things, but rewarding people for the loyalty is certainly a strategy. Almost every grocery store, almost how many places out there, your 8th cup of coffee is free, or what we're doing is getting loyalty from our customers and rewarding them. Another thing, just for the record, what you could do is sell a year's worth of oil changes up front. We don't believe in discounting that per se, but you could say, well, you're going to need 5 oil changes this year. We have a package of 5 oil changes. Why would I pay you for 5 oil changes up front when I can just pay X number of dollars each time I come in? Because with that, maybe you give me a $25 certificate for a movie theater or whatever. We believe we don't give away something we sell. We give them away something we don't sell, so they see it as an extra little neat thing. And so when people have already prepaid for that oil change with you, they're going to come back and come back and come back. And by the way, I suggest you do a Google search on what's called lifetime oil changes. When I first started training in the automotive industry, it was a big deal. We encouraged people to do lifetime oil change agreements. And I've seen that dealerships are starting to offer those again, which is simply because a customer has paid for the oil changes. They're going to come back and come back and come back. Well, if your average invoice is 3 hours per repair order or X number of dollars, having them loyal with the oil changes and coming to you for every oil change is going to give you an opportunity to sell the additional work that goes along with that. The 5 W's of upselling. Every single day, I believe that we need to take a customer through 5 points of selling. And I'm going to tell you a quick story, which will save a bit of time here. I went into a repair shop. It was really simple. My alternator light came on, that Toyota that I was telling you about, and it was concerning me because I was going out of town. And it was in the winter. I was going to be gone for a week or whatever, and my kids were younger at the time, and I certainly didn't want something going wrong with the vehicle while I was out of town. So I called the repair shop, and they said, can you bring it in tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, which didn't surprise me because almost every shop I've ever been to said, bring it at 8, bring it at 8, bring it at 8, because we open at 8. Well, not everybody wants to be there at 8. Not everybody starts working at 8:30 or 9 o'clock. And I want to encourage you to stagger the appointments. You don't want 3 people showing up at the same time. Maybe your appointments are 8:10, 8:20, 8:30. Now you've got about 10 minutes in between appointments. And yeah, some people will be late, but they're late anyway right now. But if we separate the appointments, we have more opportunity to walk out, do the walk around inspections, etc. I won't get into all the detail, but when I went back to the shop to pick up my vehicle, it had been there for 2 days, by the way, and I went to pick up the vehicle. He said, by the way, some stuff needs to be done. And I said, stuff? I'm going to encourage you to never call it stuff. He said, yeah, some stuff needs to be done. He showed it to me on his repair order, his handwritten at the time. And I said, sorry, but I can't even read that. So he told me what it was. And I looked at him and I said, okay, when can you do it? He said, oh, we're really busy. Would be at least a week. So I walked out of the shop quite frustrated. And I thought, it's not good enough to say somebody did something wrong. The question is, what could he have done right? Now, I didn't walk out of that shop as a trainer. I walked out as a customer thinking, oh my, now we got something else wrong and I need to go out of town. And what happens if something goes wrong and maybe I should rent a vehicle or whatever? Is it safe to drive? People will ask. And what was going through my mind is he told me what was needing to be done, but that's it. And I thought to myself, what would I like to have known as I walked out the door? Too often, we as service advisors or technicians or owners tell people what needs to be done, what needs to be diagnosed, fixed, replaced, maintenance, whatever it is. But we also need to explain the why. Why does it need to be done? Is it broken? Is it worn out? Is it rusted? Is it stretched? Is it a factory recommended service? Why does this need to be done? The why behind the what. Next is what we need to do is explain what could happen if it's not done. This is not scare tactics. You're not planning on driving this vehicle more than 20 feet, are you? That's scary. In California, they actually have laws against that kind of selling, but that's not what we're talking about. What can happen if the timing belt is not replaced with an interference engine stranded on the side of the road, or the guy who crossed the border? You could break down in the winter. You could break down in the middle of the highway. How much notice does a timing belt give you that it's going to go? About 90,000 miles, 120,000 miles, whatever vehicle you're talking about. And then it doesn't give you much notice after that. So what could happen if it's not done? Not scare tactics, reality. The other is what it's going to cost. I had no idea what it was going to cost. And by the way, I asked him, I said, what would that cost? He said, I don't know. I'd have to work out an estimate. And I've heard service advisors many times say, I don't know, I'd have to work out an estimate. Well, I assume that if we didn't make an estimate, we didn't have time, we didn't prioritize it, or we thought maybe the customer's not going to buy it, or why bother when we can't even get it done today because we're so busy we can't even get done stuff that we had from yesterday. But we need to estimate the repair for the customer. If we can't get it done today, so I tell you what, I'll estimate the job for you. I'll text you, I'll email you, whatever. But we want to get it done as often as we can that very day. And when it can be done, we can take care of that for you today. We've made an appointment for you to have that done next week. This could be the customer comes in, we notice something on the vehicle, we give them a call or email or text or whatever. Here's what needs to be done. Here's why it needs to be done. Here's what can happen if it's not done. Here's what it's going to cost. We can do that for you today. We can have that done for you today when you pick up a vehicle at the end of the day, or maybe it's later on in the day, they brought in the vehicle or whatever. We can't get everything done every single day. We can say we can make an appointment for you to have that done in 2 weeks from now. Maybe it's a timing belt and it doesn't need to be done right now. Maybe based on how much they drive, it's 3 months out. So the timing belt should be replaced. It's recommended at this many miles. Based on how much you drive, you're going to need that done in approximately 2 months' time. We've gone ahead, made the appointment, and you give them the card with the next appointment. The next thing is the selling principle. It's called the ADA principle, and I want to encourage you, just like the 5 W's, to remember those, the ADA principle. And this is your job every single day in selling anything that you sell, including pre-booked appointments. The first thing you need to do is grab the person's attention. People are busy, their texts are going, they're on their phone. We need to get their attention. And that's one reason why I really like the walk around inspection. All you need to do to the customer, say, let's go out to your vehicle and get some information. Now, if it's super cold or it's raining, say, I'm going to go get some information from the vehicle, help yourself to a coffee or whatever. But as many times as possible, all you need to do is say, let's go out to your vehicle, and you walk and they will follow you. And you get out to the vehicle. Now you've got their attention. You're away from your phone. You're away from your counter. You're away from the noise of the shop. You're out there with the customer. You pay attention to the vehicle. It's a nice vehicle. You always keep it this clean. It's in great shape. Maybe they've got a car seat and you talk about the kids or whatever. They've got, a trailer hitch on the back, and maybe you could talk about a transmission cooler, whatever. You're looking at the mileage and getting information like that. So the first thing you want to do is grab the person's attention. Now, it's not always a walk around inspection, but you want to say, did I call you at a good time? I'd like to talk to you about whatever it is that you're selling. Whatever you're selling, there are 4 steps in this case. You need to grab their attention. The second thing you need to do is to generate interest in what needs to be done. The third is desire. The desire is the benefits that we looked at earlier. So I'm going to talk to the customer about a 60,000 mile service, 96,000 K service. I walk out to the vehicle and they're 94, 95, 98, whatever. and say, I noticed that you have this many miles on your vehicle. I grab their attention and say, I don't know if you know, but the manufacturer of your automobile recommends at this interval that these services are done. Then you point those out to them. And that's the benefit of printing off that service before the customer even comes in. Now you would go back into the shop and say the manufacturer recommends, and show it right to them. They can put the paper in their own hand. The manufacturer recommends. Now it's not always the same. Some Mitch will say one thing, ALLDATA will say another, dealership may say one thing. The biggest difference is between normal and severe driving conditions. And in most places today, it is severe driving conditions, so you can go with that. So the interest is showing them what the manufacturer recommends. They go, oh, I don't even know what half that stuff is, but that's interesting. And then the desire comes right back to you selling them. And the reason you'd want to have that done comes right back to the W's. The reason you'd want to have that done is maintaining the vehicle warranty, increasing the longevity of the vehicle. Now, you don't need to rattle all of them off. If it's a newer vehicle, maybe you're going to talk about the warranty and maybe not so much the resale value, because it'll be a long time. And it's a brand new vehicle, maybe you don't need to talk so much about the risk of the hassle of a breakdown, but you could talk about the safety or peace of mind or whatever it is, or saving money on fuel. Sometimes it's reading the customer, sometimes it's taking a look at their vehicle and how they look after it, the kind of person that you're talking to. If the car is trashed on the inside, they're probably not much of a maintenance customer, and so you want to hit on some of those. But your job is to get their attention, generate interest, bring them to action is the last point. I'm going to encourage you to bring them to action with saying, we can do that for you today, and it is only $483. We can do that for you today. It's only $489. It's only $632. Never say that it's expensive. You simply want to let them know this is the reason you'd want to have that done. If you go out to the vehicle and you grab their attention, you talk about a 96,000 K service, and they say, well, how much is that? You go, it's about $500 or $600. And they go, oh my God, I came here for an oil change, and now you're trying to sell me for something for $600. Now you're backpedaling and think, oh, I haven't told them what they're getting and why they want to get it. And so you say, well, the reason you'd want to do that is because this is what is included in that. And basically it's check, 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 inspect, 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 replace, replace, replace. Now I'm going to encourage you not to use the word check. We use the word check too much. It sounds simple. It sounds, can you check out my car? Can you look at my car? That's something I cover in the Selling Diagnostics in a lot more detail. But inspect, inspect, inspect. We go through the list and say, we're going to inspect this, 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 and this. That's the interest. But if they're already thinking $500 or $600, their brain's going $600, and they're not listening to the I and the D. So if somebody said, how much is that? Say, well, I'd like to explain what we're doing first. And you go through the list. We're going to inspect, 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 and we're going to replace, 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 replace. Let them know that old parts are going off and new ones are going on to maintain the vehicle. You create the desire, again, by the benefits that we just looked at. Then you give them the price. So I'm going to encourage you, when you're selling, including pre-booking appointments, AIDA. Did I get their attention? Did I generate interest? Did I create a desire? And lastly is, did I bring them to action? The last topic, pre-booking your appointments, all the next visits. And I'm sending you, some of you have already heard it, but it's an interview that I did with the king of pre-booking appointments. And I say that, I'm not saying he's the best in the entire world or all of Canada. But one thing I really like about his story is that he's been doing it years and years and years. And it all started off with him telling me that February was coming and then he hated February. He said, this is third generation. I hate February. My dad hated February, and my dad's dad hated February. I said, well, I wouldn't say this to you, but Bob O'Connor, who trained me, if you said to him, I know this, my dad knew this, my grandfather knew this, he would look at you and say, so you've known this for 3 generations and you haven't done anything about it. So he's going to take a sip of water here. I don't make this up. I was talking to Jim a little while ago. You'll hear the interview. It's only 20-some minutes long. He no longer hates February. February is as good as any other month. Why? Because he takes care of February in advance. 2005, I'm standing in front of a group of people in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm talking about pre-booking. And I said, I want to read you an email. Now, this is the SEMA show, which is the first week in November, sometimes the very last couple of days of October, but Automotive Industry Week. And at the time, it was Cars, NACE, Apex and SEMA all at the same time. Now, Cars has since moved on, but in those days it was Cars. And I was teaching business management. And I read an email from him that said, Kelly, this is November 2. I already have 44 pre-booked appointments for February. He was taking care of February well in advance. And I won't take away his steam. I tell you, that was 2005. This is now 2018. He's better at it now than he ever has been before. I have taught this subject a lot, and I can tell you, sadly, it is one of the least underdone things. It is so simple, but it's not necessarily easy, and I'll explain that why on the last page. Simple and easy are not the same thing. But Jim no longer hates February. One other thing about Jim, he said to me, Kelly, you take off every spring break. And I said, yeah, I book it in advance when the kids come back from school on September, whatever. I look at the schedule, when is spring break? I block off that week because I didn't want them being off of school and me working. I mean, I work for myself. It's not like my boss said I couldn't be off that week. And I would book it off. He wanted to do the same thing. He said, but I just getting away in March. I don't know how I can do that. And I don't make the stuff up. He decided to start pre-booking appointments. He wanted to go to Newfoundland, and you'll hear in the interview, he's now been there several times with his family. His daughters are now older, but in the day they were pre-booking appointments to make sure that when they went away for for spring break, that the shop was going to be busy. Bottom line is that when he went away in March, he said to me, guess what? I'm going to Newfoundland. This is great, but he said, I'm not concerned about there not being enough work. That's the last thing I'm concerned about. My biggest concern now is what happens if a whole bunch of people want to come in and get more stuff done. So pre-booking appointments, what other industries do it? I used to say dentists that do. I was wrong. Hygienists do. Dentists do not pre-book. Hygienists do. Dentists are the diagnosticians and the the diagnosticians and, of course, repair as well. Hygienists do everything that they're allowed to. Dentists only do what nobody else that's as expensive as them can do. So a dentist is not going to do any of the hygiene work. But if you've got a really bad toothache and you call the dentist, you're probably going to get in right away. They're probably going to charge you a $60 to $100 drop-in fee, emergency fee, because you need to see the dentist. If you called tomorrow and said, I want to get in for a hygiene appointment, you probably wouldn't get in. Why? Because those are booked in advance. It's the same thing with us. We don't pre-book repair, we pre-book maintenance. We don't say, well, we called the psychic hotline and they said that your timing belt's going to break on June 1st, so let's see you on May 30th. We need to pre-book that as a maintenance item. Hygienists, those appointments can be booked 6 months in advance. Again, I don't make this stuff up today. I got my email for the hygienist appointment. It's not for the dentist, it's for the hygienist, and they will be booked 6 months out, a year out. It's the maintenance that's pre-booked, not the repair. Dog groomers do. I was at a workshop I was doing in York, Pennsylvania, and a fellow who owned a shop, his wife actually did dog grooming, and he wasn't pre-booking appointments. Anyway, we went to his place for lunch that day, and it was doing an on-site forum. It wasn't just training. And I go in to meet his wife. I'd met her a couple times before, and she was just finishing up this poodle, and this lady was picking up, and she said, okay, here's when you're coming back. And I said, your wife is a dog groomer and pre-books. Some of you know Kevin with Gemcar. He told me that his dog groomer is so popular that if you don't pre-book your appointment, you're simply just not going to get in. My wife, she always wanted the same hairdresser every single time. Only Ashley, only Ashley. On the calendar, she didn't put haircut. She put Ashley. And when Ashley moved from where we were in Cochrane to Cremona, a clear 30 miles away, she changed there because she wanted to follow Ashley, because she knew her, she liked her, and she trusted her. Dog groomers pre-book, hairdressers pre-book, furnace cleaning companies, they'll call you and say it's time. I'm glad they're taking care of it because we're busy with 3 kids and 5 events a week. Septic companies, I should say, I lived in the country for 13 years, and I'm glad they were on their game because that's not something you want being an issue. For those of you that live in countries, you know what I'm talking about. I had a really bad car accident actually in Vegas in 2003. And when I spoke there in 2005, it was 2 years after the accident. I'd gone to Vegas to speak at this event, and I was hit by a taxi crossing the street the night before, and I never did speak. And so I was in the hospital there 2.5 weeks and then flown home in an air ambulance. And big deal. And I was in hospital in Calgary 3.5 weeks and in a wheelchair for 5 months. And the industry, by the way, my clients started sending me money, and somewhere around $30,000 came from the automotive industry, my clients helping take care of me because I was out of work for 5 months in a wheelchair. Anyway, when I went back to Vegas, that's when I spoke at that event that I read the email from Jim. But I'd never been to a chiropractor before, but you never left the appointment without knowing when your next one was. I was going through massage therapists, and they always made the appointment. When you're talking to people about pre-booking and repair, they're not going to go, what is that all about? It's really simple. They're used to it. Lots of things are being pre-booked these days, even funeral homes. A friend of mine's in the funeral business. He said the most profitable funerals they sell are the ones that are paid for in advance. Now, you can't give them a date like we do in the repair industry, but I simply want to say that pre-booking can be the most powerful change that you'll make in your business. Jim Voigt's not the only one. I've got a client in British Columbia who is, again, one of the kings of pre-booking appointments. And I didn't put his email into this handout, but I am sending it to you. And yes, it's dated. And the reason I like the fact that Jim's is dated from 2005, and I believe it was 2004, something like that. You'll see it in the email from one of my clients who also sent me an email at my request. And I read it in Las Vegas. And I said, here's a guy that not only has hundreds of pre-booked appointments, but he knows how much his average invoice is. And you'll see in the email that he calculates how much work is already pre-sold upcoming because he's so good at pre-booking appointments. It is an incredibly powerful thing to do. All it takes is consistency doing it every single day, and it takes discipline. It takes a while to break old habits and form new ones. And I want to encourage you, if you haven't started this, to start. If you started and stopped, start doing it again. Pre-booking appointments needs to be sold. It's not order taking. It's not a customer coming and buying it per se. It's you selling it to the customer. The 4-step process, and I'm going to add a few changes to this that I've seen people adopt and make it even a little bit simpler. Then I'm going to take a look at some tips, and then we'll be done. I'll open it up to question and answer. By the way, the reason the mics are muted, my experience has been when you do a webinar at night, it's after hours. It's usually pretty quiet, dog barking at night or something like that in their house or something. But during the day, open mics, there's just, you hear all the noise in the background and the phones are ringing and people talking. And so I find it works a whole lot better. I do like the interaction, but it's less distracting. So the 4-step process. The first thing you want to do, I think, is plant the seed to the customer. It's not some shock at the end of the day that you pre-booked the appointment. I'm going to recommend when the customer drops off the vehicle. Now, if they dropped it off in the night drop box the night before, the morning of, then you're not going to be able to do this one. But a lot of people do drop it off in the morning. So they come there in the morning, they're dropping off the vehicle, you do the walk-around inspection. Hopefully, again, I'm sending you that form. You do the walk around, talk to the customer about whatever it is with the vehicle. You're going to be giving them a call. And I want to encourage you to say to them, and by the way, we'll call you when we have the diagnosis done. We'll call you when the inspection's done. And by the way, we'll also be making your next appointment. It's just a simple little planting of the seed. We're not selling timeshares here. We're simply doing something that's beneficial for everybody. And I'm going to end this workshop with that. Number 2 is when you give the customer a call, you're going to be giving them a call almost every time, or it's going to be a text in some cases or an email, but you simply say to the customer whatever you found wrong with the vehicle, and it's the same process. What needs to be done? Why does it need to be done? What's it going to cost? What can happen if it's not done? I should say what it's going to cost. We can do that for you today. And the same thing with the ADA principle. And I assure you that if you are conscientious at your counter every day, my job is E&A, educate and advise. I need to follow the 5 W's when I'm selling anything. What needs to be done, why it needs to be done, what can happen if it's not done, what it's going to cost. We can do that for you today or next week or whatever. And the ADA principle. Do I have their attention? Did I generate interest? Did I create a desire? Did I bring them to action? So when you call the customer, you can say, well, your car will be ready at 5. What time would you like to come in? Sometimes it's ready a little earlier. A lot of people will make that extra effort to get there, usually because after 5, it might be rush hour, but they think if I can get there at 3:30 or 4 o'clock, I can beat traffic. a lot of people, including myself, will make an attempt to get there earlier if the vehicle's done earlier. So you can let me know that the vehicle's ready or will be ready at 5 o'clock. And by the way, we've made your next appointment. We'll talk about that when you get here. Now, if they ask about it, of course you'd explain it. But all we've done is planted the seed twice. So at the end of the day, when we do that, they shouldn't be very surprised or shocked. Number 3 is you want to inform them that you've pre-booked their appointment. Why? Educate and advise. It's your responsibility to focus on the benefits of that. Usually it's going to be on an oil service, but it could be prior to the next season. We've made your summer appointment, your spring appointment. Jim Voigt, he does spring, summer, fall, winter, spring, summer, fall, winter. He educates his customers. We want to see you 4 times a year. Why? Keep your vehicle running well, save you money on gas. You're going to have a safer vehicle. How many major repairs has our shop done that we could have taken care of in advance? It could have saved the customer some money. Now, maybe we told them that. We E&A'd, we educated, we advised, and like the guy who didn't do the timing belt, it's their decision, but it's still your job to educate and advise. So you want to explain the benefits to the customer. The biggest mistake that people make here is they ask the customer. They say, Lisa, we'd like to make an appointment for you for June 2nd. How's that? Now, Lisa's probably going to say, I don't know where I'm going to be June 2nd. Now, I say, well, what you should do is look right at her and say, I know where you're going to be, Lisa. You're going to be standing right here at my counter giving me some of your money is where you're going to be. Okay, that's a total joke. You would never do that. But you say to the person, you're absolutely right. Life is busy. I've got 3 kids. Don't lie. I've got 3 kids, 8 sporting events a week. Life is busy. This is one less thing for you to worry about. We're going to take care of that for you. We've made the appointment. Don't ask them. You actually tell them. And I know that sounds bold or arrogant, and it's not. It's like the dentist. We don't perceive that they're being rude or bold. Now, some people don't want the appointment. I get that. But most people do. And I don't know about you, but I walk out with a little card. Now I just say, can you send me an email? I put it on my calendar. I can't remember what appointment it was. I did something the other day. Oh, swimming lessons. And it automatically said, do you want to put it on your calendar? Bang, it's on the calendar for every time that they do the Aquafit or whatever that I just signed up for. It automatically adds it to the calendar. We can do the same thing for the customer. We can add it to their calendar for them, or they can as well. But I suggest that we have the card. Now, so here's the process. You point it out in the morning, just mention it. Plant the seed. When you give them a call, plant the seed. When they come in, you tell them, do not ask them. I had one fellow said, the dentist is really good at it, but I don't really know what they say. He said, I couldn't wait to go back to the dentist. And he said, what do they say? What terminology? They don't ask, would you like to come back and have your teeth cleaned June 2nd? And he told me the story. He said, I went to the dentist, and after it was done, I paid. And she said, okay, now let's go ahead and make your next appointment. That's all she said. She didn't say, would you like to? Now, if you say to the customer, we've made your appointment for June 2nd, they go, I'm going to be on vacation that week. Well, of course, we can change it to the week before, maybe, or the week after. But in most cases, it's going to work. And I can tell you people have been doing this for years. Now, one change that one of my clients made, and he has become definitely the king of pre-booking appointments in the Toronto area, is instead of choosing a specific day, what Rex does is his service advisors choose the week of. And for the members that are listening to this in our online group, we recommended that you have a card. I know at the Old Volks Home, you created the card. A couple of the other shops online, you created the card, and it simply says the week of. The best strategy that I've seen that works in conjunction with what we're looking for or looking at right here is that every single time, 100% of the time, when you hand somebody an invoice, there's a card staple it to maybe the top left-hand corner, and it's got your next appointment is whatever it's for. It could be an oil change, it could be a tire rotation, it could be winter tires coming off or winter tires being put on. For those of you that do tires and including tire storage, but we recommend that when they're there in the next couple of weeks to have the winter tires put off, that you automatically pre-book the appointment for them to come back. And instead of them waiting for November, which is already too crazy and busy, what we do is we say, we want you to avoid the rush. We're going to encourage you to come in October. We're going to make your appointment for the first week in October. We're going to call you the week before, and you choose which day of the week works best for you. And I know it sounds subtle saying what day to what week, but they have less comments from the customer. Oh, it's the week of June 1st. That's great. Just, you're going to give me a call anyway. So what they do at Rex's shop is have a simple little card, and all it says is your next appointment is, and it could be tire rotation, it could be oil change, it could be timing belt. We're not just talking about oil changes here. We're talking about all of the services that repeat themselves over the life of the vehicle. And at Jim's shop, you'll hear it on the video, spring, summer, fall, winter, spring, summer, fall, winter. Now, unless the person drives a ton, they're a salesperson and they need an oil change every 5 weeks or every 7 weeks, that's the exception, not the rule, then they need to see those people earlier. You need an oil change every 5 weeks. We had a van. We had the kids going to school in the country. We lived in the country. And I asked the shop, how often do we need oil changes? And it was every 5 weeks. So let's go ahead and make the appointment 5 weeks out. So you give them this card every single time, and all you need to do is point to the card. You don't even have to say, we've made your appointment or you're going to be coming back in. You point to the card. It's a lot easier than saying something to them. It's the card that's telling them. And you look at the card and say, we've made your next appointment for the week of, and we'll give you a call the week before. And they walk out the door with their invoice with the card attached. And now we call them the week before. Now you could send an email, you could send a text. I personally like the personal part of a phone call, but whatever you do, you want to do it consistently. I've had some people say it got confusing because some people wanted a call and some people wanted an email and some people wanted a text. Personally, I like the phone call, but at your shop, you need to decide how you'll do it. And you can use your scheduling system. You can use Google Calendar. I see people who use Google Calendar, and all the appointments are right in there, and they look a week out, a month out, 2 months out, and they can see how many appointments are already booked for the day. Now, you want to make sure that you have time available. If you've already got 6 or 7 appointments booked a day, you don't want to put an 8th appointment. Maybe it's going to have to go in the week after. I had a client in California where I was at their shop in September, and they already had an average of 5 to 6 appointments every single day booked up until December. So we give them the card and we simply say, your next appointment is, we're going to be giving you a call. And then again, you do need to make sure that you follow up with an email, a letter. Some people send a postcard or a text or whatever it is that you do. Some of the tools that I've seen people use, you could provide a cash spiff if you own the shop. I know a shop in Moncton, New Brunswick, and they would give each employee $1. That was it, $1. But it wasn't just about the dollar. It's they had 2 service advisor, and it became a contest to see who could win. So it doesn't have to be like that, but you could say, okay, $1 for every appointment that you pre-book. One shop, what they did is they had a prize for the person who pre-booked the most appointments. I had a customer one time on our management group. It was an online group. And we're on the call. He said, oh, Kelly, he said, today's the day. It's the deadline for our draw, or our contest, I should say. And whoever has the most pre-booked appointments, the other person who works with him has to buy the other person lunch. So he said, my service advisor is going to catch up to me on me today. He said, I just know it. We're on the call. I said, oh, no, he just walked in and he held up a finger, not that finger, but one finger. Got another one. And then another time on the call, got another one. He said, he's going to catch up to me and I don't want to have to buy him lunch. So they made it a little bit of a contest. Another shop that I was in did something interesting. They have what they call mystery envelopes. And they have these envelopes and they say to the customer, there's a mystery envelope here. You can win one of 5 different things. And what you do is you grab that and they put it into your file and you find out what you got the next time. People think, what did I win that time? And I said, so what you do is go through the envelopes and change it to something less. But anyway, mystery envelopes, just an idea. One shop, they provided customers with an ice scraper. Some people did quality keychains for pre-booking the appointments. I saw this online just last week and I was so thrilled. Westside Auto Pros, for the group members, this is the guy that at New Year's Eve, he sends an email to his entire database and says, we will be your tow truck driver. They own tow trucks. We will tow your, I don't think they own the truck, sorry, but we will tow your vehicle. If you've been drinking and you don't feel comfortable driving, we will pay for the tow. We will drive you to where you need to go, or we will tow your vehicle and drive you. And by the way, just recently for St. Patrick's Day, he did the same thing. He sent out the email, don't drink and drive. Let us take care of that. And I don't even know how much exposure he got from the media that here's a repair shop that wants to make sure that you're safe. And this year, for the group members, I followed up with him. And I said to him, Westside Auto Pros, great shop, by the way. And 34 toes is what they did this past New Year's. I don't know what it was on St. Patrick's Day, but it's more about exposure. It's giving back to the community, and who knows, maybe they've saved people's lives over the time. Anyway, one of the things that we've recommended is that you provide toothbrushes to your customers. And it was actually a shop in Toronto, Barrie, Ontario, actually just north of Toronto. And I was in the shop, and they had this idea that they would hand the customer a toothbrush when they pick up the vehicle. So instead of the card that said your next appointment is, you could do both. And I actually saw it. Here's Ed talking to a customer, and he gives her invoice, thanks her for coming in, and hands her a toothbrush. And she looks at him and says, "What's a toothbrush for, Ed?" He said, "Well, we're like the dentist. We've gone ahead and made your next appointment." And he showed her the date. And she said, "Oh, that's a Tuesday. Tuesdays aren't really good for me. Thursday's much better. Can we make it a Thursday?" And he said, "Absolutely." And by the way, another thing we recommend is that you have on the oil change sticker when that appointment is for. I think it's kind of silly that you get an oil change as a customer, and they've told you that approximately the week of you're going to get an oil change, and approximately about 5,000 kilometers or 3,000 miles out. Why don't we just take it one step further and say, it's the week of this, and we're going to give you a call in advance? There's two things going on here. You can call the customer and remind them that they should make an appointment for an oil change, or you can call them and remind them that they already have an appointment for the oil change. And I'll tell you, this stuff sounds simple, but it can totally revolutionize your business. And so when I saw this online, I thought, here's a guy who came to one of our trainings. We said, you should always have candy on the counter. He does. He's got some beautiful cards there, and they still are doing the toothbrushes. I had one client, by the way, and he said, "Oh, I did the toothbrush thing and people take them." They're supposed to take them. Now, in the case of Ed, he asked his dentist if he would give him the toothbrushes, to which he agreed because it had the dentist's name on it. You can have them printed with your own company name. I recall doing a session it's probably the same session I just talked to you about, in 2005, and it was a Worldpac combination CarQuest shop. CarQuest had just bought Worldpac, and I asked them, I said, "I'm going to be teaching about pre-booking appointments. Could you get toothbrushes?" And literally at every table, there was candy, which I always do, and the workbook, and there was a toothbrush. And by the way, some people said it was the first time they'd ever seen the CarQuest and the Worldpac logo together, and it was the toothbrush. And people would ask, "What's the toothbrush for?" And at the end of that session, I said, "I'm going to interview a few people." Keith, who was on the call earlier, had to go. I interviewed him in front of all the group. And Ed and his wife, I had planned this in advance, and I called them up, and they told the story about how they pre-booked appointments. And I said, "Can you please explain to these people why there's a toothbrush at their table?" And he said, "Well, because it's Vegas, you probably didn't sleep last night, get back to your hotel room." He said, "I'm kidding." He said, "But we give our customers a toothbrush simply to remind them of, we're like the dentist, we've made your next appointment." Last few things I just wanted to add, and I just wanted to put in some little coaching things. Maintenance and pre-booking, we've talked about both of those. Maintenance is sold, repair is bought. Pre-booking appointments is something that you need to do, and do it consistently. And after you've done it for approximately 21 days, the experts say it will become habit, and you will do it without even thinking about it. And I think that selling more maintenance and pre-booking appointments is a win-win-win-win-win. The customer wins because of the benefits we looked at. They're not going to go over in the oil changes. It can help save an engine. The car will be in better running condition. We'll be monitoring the vehicle, which, by the way, is a good sales technique as well. We'd like to monitor the vehicle. We'd like to prevent a repair before it gets serious. We're going to take care of that. We'll monitor the vehicle. Just like the doctor that does the annual physical. It's not something that's wrong, but things will come up in those physicals. The advisor wins because the customer's friendlier. It's not a person who's there. Now, you're going to still have repair. That's not what we're saying. But what you're going to see is a trend that will happen, that you'll be selling more maintenance and more maintenance and more maintenance. If you look back at the last month and say, okay, 60% of our work was repair, 40% was maintenance, and you start pre-booking more and more and more appointments. Now, you're not going to see a difference in a week or 2 weeks or even a month or two. but it's 3 months out that it's going to make a big difference. And you start to track and trend. Your sales will go up, your gross profit will go up, your hours per repair order will go up, your efficiency of your technicians will go up. And you as an advisor are selling people maintenance. They're coming in for their maintenance. They're happier than if the car got towed in because the timing belt broke. The technician wins because it's more gravy work, less grunt work, more gravy work. The shop wins because it's more profitable and the gross profit is higher. And the part vendor wins because we're ordering those parts more in advance. With Jim Voigt, the fellow that I'm sending you the email from, I was at his parts store, and his parts store is an Apple store. He said, I wish I had more Jims because Jim orders his parts in advance. He calls his customers 5 days out, confirms the appointment, and then calls and orders the parts. I'd like the part here in Fort Latin sometime in the next 4 days would be nice. And I'm not exaggerating. He can't pre-order every part. I don't know what the percentage is, but I tell you that his parts store loves him because he pre-orders more parts than he ever had before. Lastly is I think the reason people don't stick with this is because there's no instant gratification. If you pre-book a bunch of appointments for a month out, it doesn't help you today. If you pre-book appointments like Jim did for February, it wasn't helping him in November or December, January, but it certainly helped him in February. If February is consistently slow and lots of shops hate February, you don't take care of February in February, it's too late. You take care of February in January and December and November. By the way, Rex, with his pre-booking, he was able to successfully get almost 100% of his tire customers to come in October. Why? He sent out an email. Now, of course, a lot of the appointments were already booked when they had the winter tires taken off. He already pre-booked it for October. But October 1st, they sent an email to the entire database that said, come in, get your winter tires earlier. Winter's coming. It comes every single year. Beat the rush. Don't have to wait. And if you make your appointment in October, we're going to give you a high-quality snow brush, and we're going to put your name in for a draw to win free tire storage for the winter. Now, that's only one vehicle. I'm recommending that with people who do RV work, that you send out emails and say, let's get your RV in earlier so that you don't have to wait. And my recommendation is we will provide one winner. You're not going to store everybody's RV for the season, but you may win. We're going to put your name in for a draw to win RV storage for the winter. Now, you're only doing it for one person, but the fact that people think, oh, I might win that. Anyway, lastly, is pre-booking does not provide instant gratification. So you need to find some way of gratifying yourself. I'm a kind of person that loves when you're downloading something and it's 10%, 20%, 30%, 80%, 100%. You're seeing that progress. And a lot of us are task-oriented people. At the end of the day, we want to have 5 things checked off on the list. Most of you, I'm sure, are like me. I'd rather something not done at all than half done. I would teach my kids not half done stuff. Let's do it all the way. You know how kids say, my room's done, but it's not really. I can't resist this. One day, I'm driving the kids to school in the country. We live in the country. School's in the country, about 30 kilometers away, 20 miles. And I drove about halfway and I pulled over. I said, okay, guys, get out. And they said, what are you talking about, Dad? We're not at the school yet. I said, we're about halfway, kind of like your bedroom, about halfway. And then a little while after that, trying to educate the kids. Scott was getting older and I cooked the chicken. It was still bleeding. And I put it on the table, said, Scott, would you cut the chicken for me? He said, okay. And he starts to cut. He said, Dad, it's only half cooked. I said, yeah, kind of like your room, kind of like your homework. Anyway, it's just a matter of educating. But if you are the kind of person like me that need tasks, I want to encourage you at the end of the day, no, I pre-booked 3 appointments today. I pre-booked 4 appointments today. I've pre-booked 8 appointments this week. Track it. Have it on a chart somewhere where you can see. For me, by the way, I've got a chart. I'm looking at it in my office. And LinkedIn is something I've worked at. And this week I hit 10,000 connections. But it wasn't just 10,000 was my goal. Each month I'd say, okay, 3,000, 4,000, can I do 5,000? Same thing with Facebook likes. The point is that I think because it's not instant gratification, then you need to find a way to make it gratifying for yourself. At this point, I'm not going to open up to questions and answers because I said we go for an hour with a half hour for question and answers. We've just gone past that amount. So if you have any questions, again, most of you know my email address for those of you taking this on the recording, kelly@kellythecoach.com. I want to encourage you to take the stuff to heart. and realize that it's your responsibility to E and A, educate and advise. Educate the customer about what they should do, advise them that they should do it. The 5 W's every single day when you're selling. Did I tell them what they need? We're really good at the what, but did I tell them why they need it? Did I tell them what can happen if it's not done? Could I tell them when we can do that and what it's going to cost? I don't think I mentioned that, by the way. What it's going to cost is the 5th W. We need to let them know what it's going to cost so they know specifically when they come back in what it's going to cost. And then the AIDA principle. Do I have their attention? If I don't, how do I get their attention? Now that I've got their attention, did I generate interest? Did I tell them what they're getting? Quickly back to that, by the way. Attention, interest, desire, action. Attention is so they listen to you. Interest is so they pay attention to what it is that they're getting. The attention is you getting the attention away from the distraction of their phone or whatever it is, your phone or your technicians wanting to talk to you. That's why I like walking out to the vehicle. The interest is the features, what the person's going to get. The desire is the benefits of what they're going to get, how they're going to benefit from what you're going to do, I should say. And lastly is you bring them to action. So every single day, E and A, the 5 W's, and did I get their attention? If not, how do I do that? The interest, so they are interested in it. The desire, so they want it. And then the action is so that they go ahead and buy it. So I want to encourage you to start to sell more maintenance, and again, go back to your schedule. How much of your work is repair? How much is maintenance? Set a goal for how much maintenance you want to have. Again, do the oil change stickers. I think that's an important thing to find out what percentage of people come to you, what percentage of people are going over. You can educate people. And, that alone, if you say to a customer, did you know 35% of people in this area, you don't say your customers, 35% of people go over in the oil changes, and pre-booking appointments can help prevent that. And the reason you don't want to go over in the oil changes, because we're not trying to save you money in oil, we're trying to save your engine. I saw a big sign in Calgary is a billboard, and it said it's cheaper to change your oil than to change your engine. Okay, with that, we're done. Thank you very much, everybody, for your attention. And hope you found it interesting and you have a desire to go back and do that. And really now it's more about action and going back and put it into place. So again, if you've got any questions, Kelly@kellythecoach.com. Go back, sell more maintenance, and pre-book more appointments. Thank you.